Welcome back, Kings and Queens, and welcome if you're new here. My name is Hope King, and I'm the designer behind King's Designs MD. And today I just want to teach you guys something new if you don't already know. Some people don't know that you can create your own templates in Canva. And so you guys saw where I created the purse design, the paper purse design, and I just want to show you how to do this in Canva, which might make your cutting and scoring just a little bit easier. So if you've never been in Canva, you can click create a design in your top corner. I like to choose custom size, and today we're going to do 11 by 8.5. This will give you the landscape mode instead of the portrait mode. I am in the pro version of Canva because quite frankly I just love it. I use it a lot. But the first thing I'm going to do is click on elements on the side. I'm going to go to lines and shapes, and I'm going to pick a line. I am going to stretch my line all the way out on each side, and then the next thing I'm going to do is move my line into place. Now again, this is the 8.5 by 11, and so it's 11 inches this way and 8.5 inches this way. If you were to take it to your printer, it's just a standard sheet of paper. So what I'm doing is I'm looking at my lines on the side, and I wanted to get it down to the 8-inch mark, because again this is an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper, and so I want it to be half an inch and half an inch score line. So again, if you can see on the side here, it's ever so light, but when I move it, it shows me where my line is, and so this is at the 8-inch mark. Now I'm going to size this down. I like to move my lines down to 1 inch. That's just a personal preference, and I want to click it again just to make sure it's still sitting at that 8-inch mark. Now I'm going to go back up here, and I clicked line style, and that allowed me to slide my line weight down to 1. Now I'm going to pick any dotted line. This just lets me know when I take it to my scoring board that this is going to be a score line and not a cut line. And somehow my line got shifted over, so I'm just going to extend it back out and move it back into place. Alright, so this is my first page. Now I'm going to shrink it back down. I'm going to go up here and click duplicate page. Excuse me. And now I have two. So this will be my front panel, and this will be the back panel of my purse. Now, you could absolutely make a total separate page and do what I'm about to do next, but I want to just do everything I did by hand and just show you how to do it digitally. So I'm clicking line from lines and shapes and rotating my line to a 90-degree angle. I am extending it out on both ends, and I'm going to shrink it down to a 1. Now this should sit at my half page mark. You can move it around if you're ever unsure. Canva will give you the purple line to let you know that it's centered, typically. To let you know that it's centered, you've hit a purple line mark. And so now this is going to be my cut line. So this means this is going to be half a panel and this is going to be half a panel. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate my line, and I'm going to move it over. Now I'm trying to get it to about 2 1/4 on this side, and then I'm going to do the same thing on the next side. So I want this to be half of and half, if that makes sense. And now I'm going to duplicate it over here. And again, I'm trying to get it to be half of a half of my page. So the next thing I'm going to do, because I no longer want this to be a cut line, I want this one to be a score line. And I also want this one to be a score line. So when we take it to our slicer, we will slice this in half or cut it with scissors, whatever works. And then this half would be scored straight down the middle. And I can put side score lines here too. And so by doing that, I would just get a score line, get a line, drag it to the corner, put it on an angle, and you can shrink it down as low as you think you need to in your bag. And so now I'm going to change this to a score line. You see how thick it is before you size it down, so I can leave it like that. But if you're going to print it off, these score lines are actually going to show on your paper, so just keep that in mind. I'm doing this just to give you guys another option when you're designing, if you're designing a bag or whatever you want to do, just to give you another option and way to do it, because some people don't have Cricut, so this is just another way to do it. So I duplicated that line and I dragged it over, and now I'm going to duplicate this line and drag it over as well. And so now, let's try to get it as perfect as possible. If you can't, just move it. Okay, so now I should have two side panels. So this would be one side panel of my bag, and I'm just going to drop something in here colorful, just so you can see what I mean about two different side panels. So this should be one side panel of my bag, 5.5 by 8.5, which is exactly what I needed. And this other one should be the other side panel, and I'm just going to change the color just so you can see the difference. And so if I were to put my bag together, this would be a left panel and this would be a right panel, or this would be a left panel and this would be a right panel. Either, you know, whatever, either way, because it should be exactly the same thing. You could always do this on one side and just copy and duplicate it. So I'm just going to show you that really quickly. I hope I don't confuse anybody. If you're good with this, just ignore the next few minutes. So I just took all that out. Now I can take out my background. I can copy these two sides and this piece. I can group that together, and then I can duplicate the whole piece over here. So then if you didn't want to have to do all those same steps that I did twice, you don't have to. You can just do it like that, duplicate it, and move on with your life. The other thing that I haven't done yet for this particular panel is put another line in. So what we need is the bottom line, which is going to, oh, stuff is moving on me. You can always hit the back button if stuff starts moving and you don't want it to move. Okay, I don't know what's happening here, but stuff is moving on me. Okay, I'm gonna make it work. That's what we do here. So all I want to do is move this line down to the 8-inch mark. So if I have to move it little by little, side by side, move it down, that's what we're going to do. But I'm just trying to get this down to the 8-inch mark for another score line. So when you have the bottom of your bag, this needs to have a score line as well. And so this means when you put your bag together, it basically has a seam to fold into. So I'm just inching this down to try to get it zeroed out. So now it should be 8 inches across, and so that's the bottom seam line for my bag. Now you can always move these things around to come up. I want to make sure I ungroup it. You can always move these seams on the side up here to come up and match. And I'm going to delete this whole thing out. Like I told you, you can delete one whole panel, because once you got it, you can really duplicate it. You can group it, making sure you have all your pieces, group it, and then you can duplicate the whole thing over. So I can just move that right in place. It looks ever so slightly off to me, but I'm not going to keep messing with it because it'll bother me. But you get my point. So these are two side panels. So now you have the side panel with the bottom edge for each one. You still have to go back in and add another 2 score marks. So here's what I'm going to show you. If we were doing this by hand, you would just do it by hand, but since we're not, I just need to add a 1/2 inch score mark. And so I want to make sure it's on the 1/2 inch line. And we need to do that here, 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 and here. So each panel, each half panel, if I can take this back out again, each half panel has to have, each panel, not half panel, each panel has to have 2 side tabs. So this is one, and again we want to make that a score line, and I'm just going to leave it thick just so I can move along. And you want to come over here. If this is 5.5 inches wide, you want to make this on the 5 inch mark. So this is on the 1/2 inch mark, and this one is on the 5 inch mark. Now this one down here, I need to make that a score line as well, because I don't want you to cut that off. So this is a score line, this is a score line, all of this is score lines, and it looks crazy. The only reason this is here and is not a score line is because you're just cutting this sheet of paper in half. Again, you can absolutely do this on separate sheets of paper, and you should be good. But now you have your 2 panels side by side, 2 matching panels, so left panel and right panel, and so those are your pieces. So you now have your front, you have your back, and you have your 2 side panels. So I hope I didn't make that too confusing for anybody, but that's how you would do it. If you want an easier way to do the side panels, let me show you really quickly. You could just go straight down the middle of your paper, 90-degree angle, straight down the middle of your paper, and just like I said, you do your side markings. If you want it on a 45 or 30-degree angle, you can do your angles here. Hit duplicate, rotate that one out here, and all these will be your score lines. So we want to make them dotted. And now we will duplicate the middle line again. Duplicate the middle line again. And then we'll group all that together, and we will shrink it down to be your panels. Now you would have to extend your lines to go all the way up, but that will roughly give you the same thing that you would have here. So that's another way to try and do it, just on a bigger sheet of paper if working with a smaller sheet of paper is not good for you. The next thing we need to do is add your straps. So my straps were designed to be 11 inches by 1 inch. So we want to take that down to 11 by 1. And that should be good. Sometimes when I work on a smaller screen, I don't get everything that I want. So that's a 1 inch strap. I'm going to duplicate this. I'm going to make this another 1 inch strap, and I'm just going to change the color. You wouldn't change the color if you were doing a print then cut or something like that, but I'm changing it just so you can visually see as I'm going along what I'm doing. So those are 2 straps. Then you can duplicate these again, and this will be a reinforcement piece, and I'm going to duplicate it again just so you know there's another reinforcement piece. So there's a strap, reinforcement piece, strap, reinforcement piece, and then the part that's left should be enough to be the bottom of your bag. And so this would equal 4 sheets of cardstock if you wanted to design it in Canva. So that's 11 by 4.5 inches. So that would give you the rest of your bag. You don't have to do any scoring on the bottom of your bag. You can